The crash happened just over a year ago, right here at the southeast corner of Central School, and left a massive 15-foot high, 8-foot across hole through the school. Dustin was leaking brain matter at the scene of the accident. Paramedics told his brother not to rush to Regina Hospital because he wasn't going to make it. Dustin's mother, Patricia, says no one thought he was going to make it. If you're a drama king or queen at heart, or just want to see what it's like behind the scenes, here's your chance. The Tribe has high hopes to win the pennant after coming close last year. Coach Conahan says with a 40-game series, every win matters, and they will pace themselves accordingly. It's harvest time for farmers across the prairies. People can expect to see ripe crops and combines in action. Local farmers started combining their first fields this past week. That's about 2 weeks behind last year's harvest and the rest of the province. The delay is caused by a lack of moisture in the southwest during the months of May and June. Swift Current farmer Floyd Carefoot is glad to see a later harvest this year as he looks over his yellow pea crops.
The peas matured, this field matured fairly evenly and it's nice and ripe. And this heat today here and tomorrow is going to really give us an advantage to drying the crop down. The moisture on it is roughly about 15 to 16% moisture, which is ideal for combining peas.
The Carefoot family farms around 9,000 acres in and around Swift Current with a variety of crops including lentils, peas, durum wheat, spring wheat, flax, and barley. They've only started to harvest peas at this point, but don't expect the other crops to be too far behind. The Carefoots expect to take in around 25 bushels of pea crops, which is what they anticipated during seeding. Meanwhile, heavy rains in late July mixed with recent warmer weather has given the Carefoots an average crop, a major setback from last year.
Most of our crops are going to be about between half and 2/3 of the crop we had last year. Last year was a fairly good crop. Our durum and spring wheat, it looks like they're going to fill good, so we're not too sure what kind of yield we're going to get yet until we get into them.
Dry conditions and wind damage are the main issues southwestern farmers have reported this year, according to the provincial government's weekly crop report. Carefoot says his main problem besides dry conditions are pests, mainly grasshoppers swarming his fields.
There's been some crop damage with the gophers still, and grasshoppers. We had to spray all of our lentils to stop the grasshoppers from destroying that crop. There's quite a few in our peas here, but they'll end up in the grain tank.
Harvest is now in full swing in Saskatchewan. In a couple of weeks, farmers will truly discover how well their crops developed. In the meantime, working hands will continue combining and filling grain bins. For Southwest TV News, I'm Valerie Lalonde. Drugs have become an issue in Swift Current over the last year, and the community refuses to let it escalate. Approximately 200 concerned citizens came out to gain information and hear presentations from Addiction Services, RCMP, and the Mental Health Association. There were also personal stories told from parents who have recently gone through issues surrounding drugs with their child, and from young members in the community who have experienced the consequences connected to drugs. Logan Clausen grew up in Swift Current. He began using drugs at 16 to fit in with the skateboarding crowd.
After I started doing it, it seemed surreal. It seemed to fulfill what I was looking for. After smoking weed, 2 months later, I remember trying cocaine for the first time, so it wasn't really a slow process. I wanted to try everything that I could, and later I got my hands on ecstasy, crack, and meth, and tried those. Luckily, I didn't stay with those too long, but just whatever I could, whenever I could, for the most part.
Clausen says drugs made him into a completely different person, and he wanted to get the color back into his life. He had tried rehabilitation centers in the past, but the pull of addiction was always stronger than his will, and eventually relapsed. It wasn't until he joined Teen Challenge, a 12-month faith-based rehabilitation center for people struggling with chemical dependencies. He is now 2 years sober and involved in a completely different lifestyle by taking an active role in helping youth beat their addictions at a camp near Simi.
It's a program for 12 to 18-year-olds that if they're starting to struggle with crime or drugs or whatever, just bad lifestyles, that they can come out to our program. It's like a summer camp for roughly 3 months and get away from the world that they're in, get away from their trouble and the crowd that they're hanging out with for that time period. And then we teach them that there's more to life.
Justin Mizzou has a similar story. He grew up in Shaunavon in a loving home. His mother is a guidance counselor with the Chinook School Division. Mizzou says he's not sure why he started using drugs, other than the fact people look like they are having fun while using. Mizzou is also a graduate of the Teen Challenge program and now travels across Canada speaking to teenagers about drug use. Mizzou believes his speeches hit home for a lot of people because he's not afraid to tell the harsh reality of drugs.
A key part in educating kids to prevent them to use drugs is to have real facts, real stories. This is what addiction feels like, you know? It does make you feel good for a little bit of time. Actually, it makes you feel really good for a small amount of time. But also it makes you feel bad for even a longer amount of time and worse. You know, it's never worth that little 1% of the time you feel good is never worth the 99% of your life that is pure hell when you're doing drugs.
Joni McGonigal told her personal story surrounding her 11-year-old son starting to smoke marijuana a couple of months ago. She warns parents to be vigilant because drugs are trickling down to even younger youth. McGonigal says parents should take an active role in their child's life and enroll them in sports and activities because temptations are out there and it's easy to fall into the trap.
If we didn't catch it when we did, it probably would have escalated to, other things that are out there, such as ecstasy, mushrooms. They always start out with the simple stuff with pot, and then it escalates and it goes to more and more and more.
The Swift Current and District Drug Task Force consists of 12 key community members. The group's goal is to create awareness of the growing population of drug users. They meet once a week and are planning a community campaign to launch this summer. For Southwest TV News, I'm Valerie Lalonde. If you have outstanding parking tickets from the City of Swift Current, it's time to pay up, or you may face serious consequences like having your vehicle towed and a number of additional fees. Most people in Swift Current do pay their parking tickets, but around 3% ignore the notice. Right now, there's 100 outstanding tickets. Violations range from parking too long downtown, to parking in a handicap stall without a permit, and parking too far away from the curb. City officials want to send the message to procrastinators that there will be further punishments if you don't pay your ticket by August 15th.
As soon as we can find the vehicles, we would be impounding them.
Any tickets that are paid will be charged an additional $40 fee. If your vehicle is impounded, there's a $100 fee plus a further charge for the time it's spent there. This is the first time Swift Current has decided to seriously crack down on parking violators. Municipalities are allowed to after legislation was passed in 2006, allowing city officials to take over responsibility of collecting bylaw debts.
There's 4 chances they have. They're given a parking ticket on the vehicle. They're issued a reminder within a month of that ticket, which is still they can pay the 25 or the minimum, the fine. After that, they're issued a summons to go to court. If they don't appear in court, that's when the judge deems them convicted, and then they're given another notice that they have been deemed convicted, giving them a month to pay that ticket.
If you missed your court date but believe you're innocent and want to show evidence, a trial can still be held, although the judge will expect a reasonable explanation on why you were absent the first date. The deadline for paying tickets is August 15th. People can do so by visiting City Hall during regular business hours, Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. For Southwest TV News, I'm Valerie Lalonde. The obvious underlying question is, what will it take for you to stop using drugs? The students we spoke with say a possible legal precaution is a definite deterrent, along with getting physically and emotionally sick. Although they believe one of their peers have to personally experience one of these scenarios, whether it is overdosing on a substance or getting arrested, they need to experience a consequence in order to make the decision to stop usage and pursue a better lifestyle. For Southwest TV News, I'm Valerie Lalonde. Drinking and driving charges are brought before the court every day, and it seems that people in the community aren't taking them seriously unless something serious happens. These incidents are prime examples of what potential harm and impact it could have in someone's life, so think twice before getting behind the wheel after having a few drinks. For Southwest TV News, I'm Valerie Lalonde.